The return of Longshot once again meant that time and resources were taken away from developing and improving upon other aspects of the game. There's nothing wrong with the title attempting to create more diversity across its game modes, especially games like Madden that have been ridiculed over the years for the series' failure to deliver a more than mediocre football experience, and its failure to emulate the quality of the older games, which is an unfortunate trend of modern gaming companies now that put so much emphasis on the monetization of their games after the base price that the base game itself often ends up not reaching its full potential. Other than graphics, most people hold the sentiment that Madden has been in a steady decline. Most Madden gamers not a part of the casual scene nowadays find themselves unsatisfied, only continuing to support the game and tolerate its shortcomings because of EA's monopoly on the NFL license, and other studios failing to produce football games to stimulate the market and compete with EA on a level that would force EA to create better football games. One of Madden's biggest flaws is its lack of content. Sure, Ultimate Team is supported greatly by the dev team, but that's because of how successfully EA has been able to monetize it. Modes that offer EA no extra source of revenue are neglected. So when it was announced that EA would be releasing Madden's first story mode in Madden 2018, fans of the series who were longing for that same quality and depth they believe the games once held were excited. Unfortunately, Longshot fell short of what fans' expectations of a Madden story mode would be like. Many imagined something along the lines of NBA 2K's career mode, but were given a mode that felt like the devs from Telltale decided to collab with EA for Longshot. Although I do have my biases towards Longshot and Madden as a whole, I will try to be as fair as I can during this review.
Got it, coach. Go.
There's a difference between a career mode and a story mode. I used to assume they were the same things, but Longshot made this extremely evident that this wasn't the case. There's a difference between watching a movie and playing a video game, and that's control. Part of what makes gaming so popular is that it can entertain you like a movie, but it can offer you great immersion by giving you player agency. When you get to decide how things play out, it only enhances your experience. Longshot 1 attempted to offer some player agency, it wasn't in great detail, but the few choices you were given affected your draft stock, which had an impact on how your playthrough ended, which is why my friends and I had different endings after our own individual playthroughs. One of my biggest pet peeves with Longshot's sequel is that it makes the choices we made at Longshot 1 completely irrelevant. Nothing that I chose as a player had a true effect on the overall story. If you're gonna give players a choice, at least make that choice matter, otherwise it just feels like a gimmick only put there to give players the illusion that what they do matters. Also, generally, when you make a sequel to something, you want to build and improve upon what the original had to offer. Longshot 2 did the opposite. When it came to building on the player agency in the first mode, they just completely got rid of it. I honestly cannot recall any instances where I had the ability to affect the direction of the story in any way. The only choices I remember making were occasionally, maybe like twice, having the option to define my coach in practice at the start and change the play, and even after messing up that play, it didn't really affect my chances of making the roster. The only other choice I remember was at the end of the game when an interviewer asked Devin Wade which quarterback in the NFL he wanted to most be like. What people wanted out of a Madden story mode was the option to create and customize their own unique story, and EA was completely aware of this. But if you're going to give us a forced narrative, at least compromise and let us affect the direction of that narrative in cool ways. It honestly felt like nothing I did actually mattered because I was forced on a narrative that just didn't feel right. What also aggravated me was not having the ability to go for it on 4th and short in the red zone during the games, especially during the games where we needed to score. The game would just tell you to restart the drive, which was extremely frustrating. This was even more frustrating on the drives the game doesn't allow you to restart and just takes away from the immersion. If it's 4th and short in the red zone, game on the line, my career on the line, why don't I have the option to go for it? Your grade would just go down despite how well you played. It just didn't make sense from an actual football standpoint. Lastly, the whole segment of Colt Cruz getting a shot to play in an NFL game was cool until you find out that your 5 receptions and touchdown in the red zone didn't matter because they cut you regardless. It does highlight the fluidity of the NFL and that it's very hard to stay on a roster, but I think your performance, good or bad, should have been able to affect whether you stay on the team longer. Even during the Miami tryouts, if you mess up, it lets you do them again. In conclusion, the lack of overall control just made playing Longshot feel like a long solo challenge for Ultimate Team rewards. I'll basically address this in the last point, but to summarize, the lack of control of the story made the game mode less interesting and kind of pointless. But if we ignore that and just judge Longshot based purely on the story from the viewer standpoint and not a gamer standpoint, I still disliked it. Colt's story arc with reuniting with his deadbeat dad and bonding with his long lost sister was cute, but I didn't care for it, mostly because it had nothing to do with football. It just felt like a huge waste of screen time. I mean, I guess his sister became the deaf quarterback's play caller because she knows sign language, which made her kind of important, but I didn't care for her, and if the devs didn't make the quarterback deaf, she wouldn't need to be in the story in the first place. I get why they did this, try to humanize the game. A lot of Longshot's story was focused on showing people coming together and being a part of one big football family to help save Mathis from think it's Geese or Goose, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but his dad, who was trying to merge the team with their crosstown rivals. The NFL lately has been really aggressive about its whole football as family campaign, even though at the end of the day, football is just a business, and what's been going on recently with the NFL and over the years has made that extremely clear. It really felt like Longshot was trying to force us to think that it's not just a business to distract us from the truth. Longshot's story also fell short where it should have put the most emphasis in Devin Wade, the main character from Longshot 1. In the sequel, he got way less screen time than his supporting character from the original in Colt Cruz. Devin's story kind of fell flat, like not much attention was put into it, and I found myself during and after playing Devin's part of the story, I feel nothing towards his character. I guess that should have been obvious from the title Homecoming, which is where Colt was and Mathis most of the story, so I should have seen it coming. I don't have a problem with Colt Cruz. I liked him in the first Longshot, mostly for his connection and brotherhood with Devin, but in the sequel, these two barely interacted with each other, and that's realistic and all, people move on with their lives. But this Longshot felt purely like a Colt Cruz story, and I wasn't hyped up for Longshot 2, but in the sequel, I did want to see great storytelling for both characters. I wanted to see both characters together because in my playthrough of Longshot 1, I got me and Colt on the same NFL team for my ending. I like that they brought Mathis back in the story in great detail this time, but I just think that they put too much emphasis on Mathis and not enough emphasis on the actual NFL itself. I mean, this is a story mode in an NFL game. Pro number 1, 7-on-7. My absolute most favorite thing from Longshot 1 was the 7-on-7. It was fun, entertaining, and I was glad they brought it back until I realized they only let you do it once. This still counts as a pro though, because I think 7-on-7 has actual potential to be great mode in Madden in the future, and I don't know why EA hasn't implemented it yet. Pro number 2, voice acting. What Longshot 2 lacks in story and our ability to control it, it slightly redeemed itself with the voice acting, which made some of the more drawn out cutscenes that I didn't care about way more entertaining. Whoever's in charge of voice actor acquisition did a great job. Devin Wade's voice actor just sounds so natural when he talks. You know, all the conversations from the story just sounded so genuine and real, except that one with Tom Brady at the end that sounded like they recorded in a hallway bathroom during lunch. It just sounded awkward and weird.
Good game, Devin. Way to play, man. I'm so impressed. Keep it up. You got a great career ahead of you. Good things happen to good people.
Hey, I appreciate that, Tom. I love watching you play, man.
You too, man.
All right, take care.
Pro number 3, story. I know I'll put story in the cons, but it wouldn't be right if I didn't highlight the best moments from the story. The first being the one-on-one conversation Devin had with the quarterback coach. I think if I'm being honest, this was the only scene that actually moved me on an emotional level. I really felt for the coach and what he was going through. The other best part of the story was the parallel they created with the old Mathis head coach and Devin's quarterback coach in the NFL. Both were men who dedicated themselves to the sport they loved, and both were in it so long that their bodies had began to deteriorate. But at the end, one was fulfilled because he did it purely for the passion, and the other was left miserable because he kept chasing the check and never made it, and in the process forgetting to focus on what's really important: people. Money comes and goes, but people don't last forever, so appreciate them while they're here. I like how they gave Colt Cruz the same choice, chase the passion or chase the check, what's gonna fulfill you more in life, and I like how they put Colt in that same situation, but they didn't give Devin a chance to make that choice either. They just kind of forgot about him and they're all about Colt Cruz. Pro number 5, gameplay. This year Longshot focused way more on gameplay, which was a big complaint about Longshot 1, that we really only got to play one game and we really never got complete control over it because there were scripted scenes during. I still would have liked the ability to play more games this year, but I still feel like we got thousands of times more actual football out of it than last time. Like I said, there could have been a lot more, but it's something. In conclusion, Longshot's story was a heartwarming tale that was okay if you like cheesy sports movies with happy endings. Personally, I didn't like it much, but it did a decent job like it did last year of telling a relatable human story, which can be hard for writers sometimes, especially when making a work of fiction. It's sometimes difficult to try and portray reality in a fictional setting because it's two different mediums. Colt Cruz's choice to go to the Dolphins and chase his dream on the bread instead of staying in Mathis with his sister with abandonment issues and helping to save the team from a mediocre season and take over the coaching job for the dying coach who asked him to do so on his deathbed is the exact same choice I would have made, bro. Go get your bread, Colt. I support you. Despite all this, overall, I was still disappointed at the end of my playthrough. At the end of the first Longshot, I actually cared about the after credits where it said what happened to everybody. This time, I felt nothing and didn't care. The lack of user control just made me not interested in the subpar story. I do applaud Madden for taking strides to add more depth to their game, and I hope they listen to fans and give us the career mode that we want. Let us create our characters, let us play in high school, make fake colleges for us, and let's work our way to the NFL. Let us play in the NFL for more than 3 scripted preseason games and 2 scripted regular season games. When it comes to my recommendation, if you didn't like the first one, you're not missing out on anything in the second. The only real reason to play it is for the Ultimate Team rewards. And if you have nothing else to do, I guess. This has been Ray Power from FTS. Peace out.